Hello, hello, and welcome to our live show here with Pros and Babes. My name is Kini Romanovska, and I've been helping moms overcome the motherhood penalty and turning it into a great advantage since 2017. It's been growing with my kids, and I'm here to talk to you about what your manager isn't telling you about being a working mom or going on maternity leave. And it'll maybe have a little bit of a spicy tone. I typically don't like to see myself as a victim of circumstances, but it's important for us to understand what we're working with. And I'm not here to blame managers. Oh, I'm not properly plugged in. That's my tech. So here we go. Perfect. I hope that you heard everything that I said and that the sound wasn't problematic. So managers are humans and they face the same issues and limitations as many of us do. I don't think that many managers do what I'm going to describe out of lack of goodwill, but perhaps it's really a lack of awareness. So I want to discuss what your manager is probably not telling you around your maternity leave or about working motherhood. Let's start with the fact that women spend about 40% of their lifetime outside of the workforce compared to men who spend about 28% of the time outside of the workforce. We women typically spend more time doing unpaid work caring for children, the elderly, and even our spouses later on in life. And that can often translate into a wealth gap, coupled with the fact that we live longer, we retire earlier. Our life trajectories, simply based on the fact that most of us will take some time out of the workforce because we have little ones, and that has an impact on your body. I'm on my third pregnancy, and I know that no matter how organized and energetic I try to be, at the end of the day, it does affect my life and my career trajectory in a way that if you don't take breaks for growing a human or for caring for other humans, even if you don't have kids, you will not experience those same career consequences. So it's unlikely that your manager is having these discussions with you. I think one of the main reasons too is, well, there's a lack of training, but there's tricky HR policies. Even when you're being hired, it's inappropriate to ask about whether you want to have kids, right? And if people are asked, it's typically women. I've been asked that in one of my interviews. It's unlikely that men are being asked, do you plan to have kids and how it will impact your career? However, we should be factoring in these realities into our career plans. And if workplaces are not yet equipped with more modern policies to integrate it positively in a conversation without discrimination, we have to have those conversations elsewhere, because it is a fact. It is a fact that if you're going to have children and if you're going to care for others, it will impact your career trajectory. And trying to do it all with no help or no strategic planning is simply a recipe for a burnout. Having people to care for is like adding a second full-time job for you, right, in your schedule. And those first years of tackling that can feel extremely demanding, and your satisfaction of life may reduce and your vision of success may suffer because you are just too tired, right? So one thing that managers are probably not telling you, and maybe they can't even tell you because of how things are set up, is that your mindset will change when you start caring for a family. And it's critical for you to examine and re-examine your values and vision of success. I personally see this as a growth opportunity, right? And I would love to hear how it's going to help you in your career. But I don't think these conversations are happening in work settings. Managers may be too afraid, or they may not have the training, or they may not have the toolkit, or they may not have the leadership support, right? But the question that we should be asking, and the fact that we should be stating, is that parenthood and caregiving are leadership opportunities. And I don't even mean it just in the traditional sense of getting to your next position, but you become the leader of others. You become the leader of another child. And so all of these things, like the ideas of success, what your values are, what a family model looks like at a time where two parents often work, that is a leadership opportunity. And that can definitely be leveraged in your workplace and in how we design future infrastructure, governance, policy, and all of that. So I believe these conversations are severely lacking in the workplace. Instead, we kind of, I've been asked things in the past, like, I've been told like, oh, enjoy your vacation, or, have 2 pieces of cake because you're eating for two. But there's a serious lack of depth of conversation of how caregiving and motherhood and parenting transforms us and can turn us into more effective and visionary leaders, right? And the majority of people will have some caregiving duties, men and women alike. And there's a huge missed opportunity to create a better future for our children. And I think one way that can be mitigated is looking at the end game, how your kids will describe your contribution to the world as a professional when they graduate from family life. That's often a starting point in my conversations with my clients. So that's one thing that your manager is probably not telling you, that your mindset will radically change. And unless you create space for yourself to reflect on that, life takes over and you can be stuck in the churn of things. Take a step back, look at your mindset, look at your values, look at your changing vision of success, and own it in a different way. And I can certainly help you with that. Number two, the question of work-life balance, it's a myth. It's well documented. There's a lot of authors like me who criticize the idea of balance, implying that you have equal space in your career, equal space at home, and everything can naturally, be 50-50. But the reality is that career trajectories, especially in demanding professions where you have responsibilities, they ebb and flow. There may be seasons of life where you will focus more on your family. There's seasons of life that will require you to push more in career. And I encourage you to make it a deliberate and strategic choice. We can't control everything, but we can look at the variables we have and the facts that we typically know, right? So I like to take a long-term vision and look at the ages of my parents, the ages of my children, the different seasons of life, and then map out what do I know and what are the benefits and the risks of every season in life, right? When your kids are very, very little, they require you in a specific way. When they get to school age, they also require you in a different way. And then the teenagers. If you have parents in the vicinity, you may become a caregiver at some point. So these things can all be generally charted, right? And somehow looked at in a more strategic way. There are also many seasons in a woman's life that, again, typically are not factored into career conversations, but thankfully I'm starting to see more information on social media talking about the transition of menopause. And there are women who are highlighting how it's impacting your energy at work. And I remember women I trust telling me, oh, when I hit that season of my life, I didn't feel like doing anything and my energy levels dropped. And just like the teenage years and motherhood, the period around menopause can really affect how you feel about life and what your vision of success is. One thing that I've learned working with our health specialists in the MomBA program is that high levels of cortisol in your 30s and 40s can impact your experience of menopause, right? So for those of us who are working demanding careers and feel really stressed and strapped energetically, it's something to consider. It's something to consider when you're saying yes to a bunch of stuff that really doesn't fit with a bigger picture of success and creating the world you want for your kids and your community. It's something to consider when you refuse to ask for help or hire for help. It's even something to consider when you're financial planning. Most of the financial industry is designed by men and for men. And that's why we are passionate about partnering with companies who can help you design a wealth plan, taking into account all of these considerations as a woman, as a mother, as a caregiver, right? It all impacts your cortisol levels. When you worry about money, when you worry about the future, or you care for others and you put yourself last on the list, that impacts your health. So that whole idea of work-life balance, I prefer to call it work-life integration, work-life harmony, but it takes creative thinking and new design. I'm not interested in building a world where we're just fitting into the existing structure designed by the current people in power. I want us as women to reflect on what that means for us, right? And our life cycles, our caregiving cycles, our design of infrastructure. I think we have a contribution to make that we haven't made historically. And that requires us to shift our mindset and to define our own vision of career and family life integration. And I mean, unless you have a very special relationship with your manager, it's very unlikely that you are being coached or mentored on what work-life integration can look like for you. I like to drill down into specifics. I like to look at my time and energy like a money budget, not in every single season of my life, but if we make the choice to both be in the workplace and to have careers, then the time for yourself and the time for your family has to be guarded. It has to be on the calendar. If it isn't, it's easy to spread yourself really thinly, right? So we have a certain check of time that's given to us for a lifetime. We don't know how long we're going to be there. Your time is your most finite resource. And every time I do my yearly planning, my 3-year planning, my 25-year vision, I reflect very deeply on what kind of quality time I want to spend with my children, because that time is finite. And when I'm aware that there's certain seasons where I want to be more emotionally present, I factor that into my work planning, into my financial planning, into my business planning. There's always an opportunity cost, right? So I treat my time as I treat my money budget. It's precious. And last week I went to pick up my son early, one of my sons early. We went for a special time at the water park together. And it was like one of the best moments of my fall, right? So that whole idea of work-life balance, work-life integration, work-life harmony, you have to define what it looks like. I meet a lot of women who are tired, overwhelmed, exhausted, feel like there's never enough time in a day, but they don't have a picture of the opposite. So we drill down to your vision, your values, and then what does that look like on a yearly, quarterly, weekly, and daily basis for you to feel like you actually have the time to spend on the things that matter, right? Number 3, that your manager is probably not telling you, and probably can't tell you, it might not even be appropriate, right? But I would like for us to design a world where those conversations about being a parent and a caregiver are weaved into our broader career planning conversations that might require policy change. But your manager is probably not telling you that your relationships will change after you have a family. And I would say most primarily with your partner, if you have one, right? You will, it's just everything will change. The ability to have the calm conversations that you used to have. Sleep deprivation will affect your dynamic. Your intimacy will be affected, right? And your values will be put to the test, your relationships with your extended family, your in-laws. And that has a huge impact on career success. Many people will say that the biggest career decision you make is the choice of partner. And for women with demanding careers who have a partner and who have children, unless you are on a team with your partner, you're going to experience a lot of stress and friction. I've seen many couples, and the downside of being a high-performing mother is that, and professional, is that you bring this perfectionism home. And many women won't even find a way to split the work with their partners. They take on everything. They bring this attitude of perfectionism. They're, and it causes stress and burnout. And there are lots of cultural norms and expectations that I won't dive into. I'm huge on personal responsibility and accountability. There are many frameworks with which you can address things, but typically I start with what is in your control, right? So your relationships will really change after you have kids. I'm a huge fan of therapy, individual therapy, couples therapy, having a vision of what really matters to you, saying no to the things that don't matter, putting time to work on your relationship and your marriage, and ultimately being in a point where both careers matter in your family. If you're both working and your partner's advancing and making more money and you're falling behind in your career because you just don't have that good dual career strategic plan, that's not where I want to see you. So it's unlikely that your manager is telling you that your relationships will change after you have a kid, but research shows that typically mother experience a career penalty and fathers experience a fatherhood premium because they're seen now as somebody with more responsibility, more mouths to feed, and so men get on this track of promotion, whereas women can lag behind. And I'm not telling you what you should or shouldn't do. I'm not telling you that you absolutely need to get a promotion to be successful or make more money. For me, success is defining what matters to you and creating that, right? And not just fitting into the mold of what traditional career success can look like. But I'm against the kind of default thinking that it's okay for fathers to advance and for mothers to be mommy tracked, right? And what does that mean for you? Again, you have to have self-love, self-worth, know your values, know your vision, and be able to do that deeper inner work to realize like, hey, I have really special gifts to bring to this world as a woman, as a mother, as a professional. They are different from fathers and from men. And I'm going to honor and value what I bring to the table, right? And I will speak about this with confidence, and I will make career choices that align with who I really am. So there's a distinction between that type of self-leadership and then being, mommy tracked and perceived as less valuable in your workplace because you've become a mother. Okay, so that's the nuance I'm making. And relationships are the second pillar of the work I do in the Mombi community and with my clients after mindset, your vision of success, your vision of work-life balance underpins everything else. Relationships really is that second pillar that we dive into to craft your plan of success, because without those, pathways to relationship success and support for both of your careers, then typically it's a struggle and more for the mother. Sorry. Pardon me. I had to take a career break. So another thing that your managers probably had to take a career break. Sorry, I had to take a cough break. Another thing that your manager probably isn't telling you, and you could argue that it's not their job, but they're probably not telling you that your finances and cash flow plan will not look the same. The whole reflection on benefits throughout the maternity leave years can be confusing. Deciding on the right insurance needs and risk management needs for your family, setting up your little ones for the future, managing risk, managing financial changes because of caregiving breaks and tax changes. It's important to get the right guidance, right? It's important to get the right guidance. Most managers probably are not aware or communicating with you the research around the career and financial motherhood penalty. And I don't think they see it as their job to work with you so that your finances are treated equitably. You have to take it into your own hands. In previous sessions, I've talked about my own experience of building my financial plan throughout the years. And I wish I had the knowledge then that I have today. And that's why I do bring in those experts into our programming and into our free and paid training so that you can avoid that $1 million wealth gap. And I never imagined when I started off doing our work with our partners that I would have moms completing our program, deciding to work with our wealth partner and saying, hey, like our wealth plan is changing by millions of dollars, literally. So one of the visions I have on my wall is to help 1,000 moms raise their net worth by $1 million. And the plans that our wealth partner is putting in place is forecasting growth of millions. It's not by making more money necessarily. It's about restructuring assets, building the right assets, doing proper wealth planning, doing proper tax planning, right? Bringing the right mindset and accountability. That makes an enormous difference in women's wealth plans. And it has to factor in our definition of risk and success, our priorities. If you're going to go with a cookie cutter plan designed by a man for men's life expectancies, for men's life milestones, what are you going to end up with, right? So for me, motherhood and deciding to start Pros and Babes, I started Pros and Babes when I was part of leadership programs, when I was pregnant. And I thought that we didn't talk enough about mothers and how motherhood impacts careers. And so it's been a catalyst for me to meet and interview hundreds of experts and moms and to dig deeper into this $1 million wealth gap. And I see it now a responsibility to raise awareness. I felt really alone at that time figuring things out. And I figured out a lot of things for myself by talking to other moms, by reflecting, by journaling, and by using my journalistic skills to gain a wealth of knowledge about the motherhood penalty and then to design ways to turn it into your advantage. And where I see it as an advantage is if you take awareness of this huge transformation and leadership opportunity that motherhood is, and begin with like deep self-love for yourself and the fact that your joy matters and that designing your future matters. our generation of women, we don't necessarily have tons of role models. We have women who really fought to help us advance, and we are, standing on the shoulders of giants who made many sacrifices for us, but we don't have tons of role models of women getting to that next level of satisfaction, of success. The women before us really worked hard and sacrificed a lot for us, and they didn't have a lot of the privilege we do. And I think we are on the cusp of being able to build something truly great. Now, if you're listening to this recording or podcast live or through my email, you may wonder, where should I start? I mentioned a couple of key pieces. So your mindset changing, work-life balance being a myth, that concept. I think most of you are aware of this by now. The changes in your relationships, right, are something that will truly impact your well-being and your quality of life. And then your finances and cash flow will be impacted by motherhood. There are, of course, other domains. There's health, there's your personal brand, right? There's your family life and your parenting, all of that. Like, everything changes when you go through matrescence and through the transformations. But you might be wondering, oh my gosh, Kenya, that's a lot of information. It's kind of overwhelming. Where do I even start? Where do I even start? So, I like to address the motherhood penalty from a really holistic perspective, and tackle all the domains in a way altogether in a big picture strategy, and then break it down into those domains and one by one go through with them and define what's important for you. But ultimately, you should start out by mapping your values, defining your vision of success in all the domains. So today I talked about mindset, career life integration, finances, and relationships. We need to have a future state of success to get there. Most of us think about the problems, but we don't map out the opposite, right? Ask for help. I'm here to help. I'm here. If you contact me, you can apply for the Mom Be program. You can get your complimentary 4 steps roadmap so that you can get out of the chaos that you might be facing and map out your priorities. You don't have to do this alone. Get help at home, get help from a therapist, talk to other moms, attend one of our workshops. You don't have to figure this out by yourself, okay? We've been doing this since 2017, and we offer tons of resources. We are just one of those spaces where we can stop and figure out how to turn the motherhood penalty into a leadership advantage at home and at work. Get accountability. People who get accountability are much more likely to succeed. For all the programming I've run over the years, if you have to show up to a peer mentor or to a group of others and you have skin in the game, you are more likely to succeed. What gets measured gets done. Measure where you want to go with somebody else, and you are more likely to achieve success. And break out of isolation. Again, that's a repetition of asking for help. Don't try to do this alone, please. Like, so many of us face sleep deprivation or anxiety or feel stuck and think we're alone with our problems. You are not. There's so many other moms like you out there who value their professional identity and their career contribution to the world, and who deeply value their families and want to be the best moms they can be for their children and excellent partners. But it takes you have to think about it creatively. You can't just measure yourself against some random standard from the previous generation or just against your boss's standards or your colleagues. I want to empower you to develop that for yourself, and stop feeling like a victim of the motherhood penalty, which I've been there. So I am so grateful. If you tuned in, let me know if you've listened to a replay or if you even read the email campaign that we're featuring this recording in. Please let me know. And join us at one of our webinars. We have monthly webinars. You can sign up on our Facebook group or on our social media. We meet every month with other STEM and competitive and moms in competitive fields, corporate fields, STEAM careers, to help give you the best tools and tricks. Our upcoming November webinar will be about tackling anxiety as a working mom. So make sure to tune in. Thank you so much for coming here to turn the motherhood penalty into your greatest advantage. I'm Kenya Romanovska, CEO of Pros and Babes, and a mom of 2, soon to be 3 kiddos. Take care. See you next time.